Evel Knievel was a famed entertainer and daredevil who attempted more than 75 ramp-to-ramp motorcycle jumps throughout his prolific career. For his years of excellence pushing his body to the limit and consistently cheating death, Knievel was inducted into the Motorcycle Hall of Fame in 1999. But even though it was a treat to watch him make one of his harrowing jump attempts, most people struggled to comprehend why anyone was willing to put themselves through all that self-inflicted torture. Time and time again, Knievel would land himself in the hospital, and in no time, he'd be right back on the seat of his motorcycle trying to make another attempt at cheating death. Join FactsVerse as we reveal why he left the world of professional stuntmanship while covering some of the fascinating details of his storied life and career. Evel Knievel's relatively mundane early years. Knievel was born on October 17, 1938 in the town of Butte, Montana. He was the first child of Robert E. and Anne Marie Keogh Knievel, who had their second child, Nicholas, a year later. His mother was Irish, and his father's family hailed from Germany. Robert and Anne divorced in 1949 and both decided to move away from Butte in search of greener pastures, leaving their children behind in the care of their paternal grandparents, Ignatius and Emma Knievel. At age 8, Knievel went to a Joey Chitwood Daredevil show, which he later credited as the inspiration for his own lifelong love affair with auto stunts. After his sophomore year, Knievel dropped out of Butte High School and got a job working in the copper mines as a diamond drill operator for the Anaconda Mining Company. But even though he somewhat enjoyed that line of work, he much preferred motorbiking. Knievel was quickly promoted to surface duty, where he would drive a huge earth mover around for the mining company. He ended up getting himself fired, however, when he performed a wheelie with the earth mover and accidentally drove into the city of Butte's primary power line, leaving the city in a total blackout for several hours. According to Knievel's webpage, he selected his iconic nickname after spending a night in the county jail in 1956 after being arrested for reckless driving. It was in that jail he met a man who had the nickname of Awful Nawful. Knievel was the type of person who was always in search of new thrills. In his early days of daredeviling, he participated in local rodeos and ski jumping competitions. In the late 50s, he joined the U.S. Army, where he put his athletic ability to the test by joining the track team as a pole vaulter. After being discharged from the Army, he went back home to Butte, where he met his first wife, Linda Joan Bork. Not long after they got married, Knievel helped found the Butte Bombers, a semi-professional hockey team. To raise money for and promote the team, he managed to convince the Czechoslovakian Olympic ice hockey team to come to Butte to play a warm-up game against the Bombers to prep for the 1960 Winter Olympics. Knievel ended up getting ejected from the game just minutes into the third period and left the stadium in a huff. When the Czech officials went to the box office to collect the money the team was promised, the workers realized the proceeds from the game had been stolen. The U.S. Olympic Committee had to pay them out of pocket to avoid a scandalous and potentially politically volatile international incident. After welcoming his first son, Knievel realized he needed to figure out a new way of earning money to support his family. So he started the Sure Kill Guide service, where he promised hunters to help bag big game animals if they paid his fee and employed his services as a skilled hunter and fisherman. In 1961, Knievel hitchhiked to Washington, D.C. to lobby for the elk in Yellowstone to be relocated to areas where hunting was permissible. After coming home, he started competing in motocross with modest success. In 1982, he broke his collarbone and shoulder in a motorbike accident, and his doctors advised him not to race for at least half a year while he healed. Worried about financially supporting his family, Knievel worked as an insurance salesman while recovering from his injuries. He was an excellent salesman, but the Combined Insurance Company of America, the company he worked for, refused to promote him to the office of vice president as he was hoping, so he quit. He then relocated his family to the town of Moses Lake in Washington, where he opened a Honda motorcycle dealership. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. And stick around for a lot more about Evel Knievel. From petty criminal to renowned stuntman, Evel Knievel always had a bit of a bad streak in him. At age 13, he stole his first motorcycle, a Harley-Davidson. A few years later, his grandmom bought him a new Triumph. One of his favorite pastimes when young was throwing rocks at prostitutes and attempting to outrun their short-tempered pimps. Eventually, after the insurance salesman thing fell through, Knievel realized his main passion in life was motorcycles. While working in Washington at the Honda dealership, he would offer anyone a $100 discount if they could beat him in an arm wrestling match. That's about the time he realized he could take his daredevil antics to the next level by turning it into a full-fledged career. To stimulate business for the dealership, Knievel performed his first motorcycle stunt in his late 20s. The stunt involved him jumping rows of parked cars, a cougar in a cage, and a box of rattlesnakes. From 1965 to 68, he performed with a troupe called Evel Knievel's Motorcycle Daredevils, but from then on, he chose to pursue a solo career. Donning his signature star-spangled red, white, and blue jumpsuit, Knievel made more than 300 jumps throughout his career, and it's claimed he broke almost every bone in his body. Although in truth, he was documented as breaking 35 bones for his antics, which still ended up being a Guinness-certified world record. In 1968, he performed his most famous stunt when he leaped over the fountains at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. He botched the landing, however, leaving him comatose for a month with a fractured skull. Some of his other well-publicized stunts included jumping over 50 cars at the LA Coliseum in 1973, a failed attempt to leap over the Snake River Canyon in Idaho while riding a rocket-propelled motorcycle that he dubbed the Sky Cycle in 1974, clearing 13 buses at Wembley Stadium in London in 75, and his notorious last jump in 76. Evel Knievel's last jump and retirement. Knievel's final jump in 1976 was a Jaws-inspired gimmick that ended up coining the phrase "jump the shark," although Fonz from Happy Days also deserves credit for that as well. The phrase would go on to be synonymous with saying someone's best days were behind them. Evel Knievel's career had already been on the decline when he attempted to leap over what was promoted as the world's largest indoor saltwater pool, which was filled with what they billed as man-eating killer sharks. The jump took place at the Chicago International Amphitheater on January 31, 1977. Even though the show's promoters did their best to hype up the supposed danger of the jump, at the end of the day, the distance he had to clear was only 64 feet. And for Knievel, that wasn't much of a challenge, and even the sharks weren't much of a threat. Jerry Clay, the man who supplied the sharks, told the press that if Knievel were to fall in, he would likely just scare the animals right out of the pool, and the sharks he provided were in fact lemon and blue sharks, not anything like the great white beast that was seen in Jaws. During rehearsal for the jump, Knievel ended up losing control of his motorcycle, crashing into a cameraman. He broke both of his arms, but was far more upset with the fact he had damaged the eye of the cameraman Thomas Guerin. It was later that year that Henry Winkler, aka Fonzie, performed a similar trick on Happy Days, albeit while on water skis, thus cementing that infamous phrase, "jumping the shark." After the failed shark jumping attempt, Knievel retired from major performances and only made limited appearances at smaller venues while trying to help launch his son Robbie's career. The Chicago botched jump attempt would be something that left Evel feeling embarrassed and regret until his death in 2007. And while he earned over $60 million throughout his career as a stuntman, he was quoted as saying he spent $61 million, leaving him with an enormous amount of debt that plagued him for years. But more than anything, the number one reason Evel Knievel quit the profession was the fact that he had become increasingly cautious as time went on, especially after his horrific crash at Wembley Stadium in 1975. Knievel deeply loved his 4 children and didn't want them to see their father prematurely in a coffin. Now it's time to hear from you. Are you a fan of high-flying, death-defying stunts like the ones Evel Knievel was famous for? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.